Well, hello everyone, we are back up the unit to try and get Bella de Berlingo MOT ready. But exciting news, there is this bright thing in the sky and the ground is not wet.
Wow.
Very mysterious. So what do we got to do on Bella? One of the things, we've got to free off the brake compensator at the rear. That allows more braking force when there's a heavy load in the back. And apparently the spring was slack, which suggests that has seized up and isn't working, or the spring's lost its tension, one of the two. We're probably going to be nipping over to Tim at Cambrian Classics to have a look at that, because he's got motor factor contents, so contacts rather, so you can order stuff, and if you don't use it, it goes back all nice and simple.
Is this the offending one?
That's the Duff headlamp, yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. And also he's got a lift, which makes getting under the back end much easier. So,
and I heard Ruby wants to get involved in Citroens.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wants to become a Citroen specialist. You heard that here first, and so did Tim. We got that headlamp. I've got one on order, a replacement headlamp, because you can see the reflector.
Yeah, if you do a comparative
rusty
to this one.
Yeah,
this one's bright.
We replaced
and
this one
dull.
with a scrapyard find, but there is an issue which I will get to very shortly. What else have we got? There was a failure item. There was a discoloured indicator, but I suspect that's just that the orange film has come off and it's not flashing very orange. So that's a minor one. There's another major one. I've forgotten what it is. Maybe I should actually get the certificate. Hold on. Right, I have my refusal. Brake hose excessively chafed on the near side rear upper. That's a mildly upsetting one, but again, I'd rather do that with Tim, because if there's any brake pipe work needed, Tim is far more qualified to do it than I am. I hate flaring. I don't really understand all the brake flaring and everything.
He's also very, very particular.
He is. And airbag light, which of course we know about. That is the connector under the driver's seat. It's not clipped in at the moment because I'd sort of wheeled it around, taken the connector apart, cleaned it, put it back together. It had worked for ages.
I was going to say, isn't it Sod's Law? Because that was absolutely ages ago we did that.
Yeah.
And then
it's been absolutely fine. Take it for an MOT, no sign of the light on the way to the MOT, only when the tester jumped in. I don't know if he moved the seat or what, but...
don't let him jump in, make him get in very carefully next time.
Yeah, I'll have to do that. And then we got a minor, which I must get around to sorting out. Got a new fuel filter housing, that has arrived, but I'm not going to tempt fate and try and fit that until we've got an MOT. So one thing at a time. And we'll see if that cures the air issue, where we've been seeing air in this hose here, which may or may not be related to the stumble it has.
I was going to say, you're hoping that's going to stop the
revs.
lumpiness.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
did they
yeah,
not comment on that doing the MOT? I guess not.
No, because it ran fine. It was fine on the emissions.
Bella, you tried.
Yeah. So right, let's get started. Not ideal. I can't really get at the threaded part of this, but if I can get some on the thread behind the head, then maybe I can coax it in. Right then, my assistant is getting ever colder, but on we go. So airbag light, I've just tested it, and Sod's Law. There is the airbag light, part of your pre-start checks. Then after a certain amount of time, airbag light goes off, and during the test it just kept coming and back on again and flashing. Fixed!
So that's under the driver's seat, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's particularly irritating, but we'll see if I can trigger it. There we go, airbag light is triggered and flashing because the connector is currently undone. So yeah, I think we'll just bypass this and consider that a rubbish connector.
What do you do?
It's going really well.
What are you doing down there in the footwell?
Remaking the connection with exactly the connectors that Tim told me not to, because it's what I have. Trying desperately not to get them the wrong way around as well. I'm going to have to cut this back so I can access more of that wire. That doesn't feel very secure at all.
Squeeze and pray.
Absolute rubbish. Oh, why do you keep farming out stuff?
We have
It's just like because I like stuff being done properly.
We have completed shimmy by ourselves.
This is true. just waiting for that MOT now.
I would like to do a proper MOT check before we put it through. Just
Yep. Oh, there we go. That might actually work. Right, so now I've just got to strip this one back, put the opposite side of that on, and we're away. That one goes into there, like so. And then we have a moment of truth, people. We turn
hang on,
off.
let me get unwedged from in the right. I tell you what, I'll give you the camera.
Are you stuck, dear? See, people just don't understand the glamour of YouTube.
No,
Right.
it's so glamorous.
Yeah, right. Have a watch of this, people. Ignition on, airbag light on,
Airbag light on.
airbag light off.
Do it again.
Oh no. Well, it's quite enough ham-fisted bodgery for one video. We've come to Cambrian Classics instead to have a nose at this here compensator, and you can probably see, if I can hold it with one hand, the spring here that the tester said was loose, but if I reach through here, yeah, that's very loose. It's snapped, in fact, is what it is. I don't know how well you saw that, but yeah, that is not ideal. So this is the unit. So there's an arm on here which moves to vary the fluid going to the rear wheels. It passed the roller test as far as I know. He didn't say it failed on that. So there must be enough throughput for it to work anyway. But yeah, even worse, it looks like someone used a cable tie to try and force the spring to attach. And we've discovered you can't buy the spring separately. So if you buy a genuine one, you have to replace this entire block, which is well, there's a whole world of pain there, and there are various brake fittings and everything. And the aftermarket units don't come with a spring. You can buy the spring on eBay for 20 quid, but that is very shiny, and we suspect that's what someone has already done. But I think we're going to have no alternative but to do exactly the same. There has been progress while we're here at Cambrian Classics. We plugged in the computer, quite an old computer, which did actually manage to talk to the Berlingo and reported that there was an issue with the ECU. But we couldn't see what the issue was, and when we tried to ask it, it said it couldn't communicate with the ECU, which was a bit problematic. But it did let us clear the code, and we've run it up and it sounds happy. And I don't think it's brought that code back. So that's the development. We're currently going through cleaning battery connections just to make sure there aren't any basics. And this fuse was pulled out, and that probably isn't showing because this doesn't really do macro, but that's really rather grim. I've already cleaned up the fuse on this side, so it's a lot cleaner. I will do the other side in a moment. But yeah, we're cleaning up things here, so hopefully it may actually communicate correctly. Airbag wise, Tim pointed out that there's also a connector under the passenger seat, and also lots of stuff rolling around under the passenger seat. He's wiggled that connector, and now the airbag light has gone off. So I probably wasted my time this afternoon. I should have thought of that one myself. But nonetheless, progress is progress. I'm going to go back to cleaning horrible icky fuses, and we'll see if we can actually talk to it properly. We're back with Tim again. As you will have seen in a separate video, the headlamp fitting went really well. So I decided, brakes, let's go to someone who actually knows what they're doing. So we're here to look at the Berlingo, and it has a failure for chafing of a near side rear hose, brake hose. If we come in here, that's what the hose is meant to look like. You see it just comes down nicely into that little point there, and then it's hardline to the brake drum. But for some reason over on the other side they've routed it like this, so it's kind of looping back on itself and coming in really tight. It's rubbing on the bodywork. That is not how you're meant to fit it at all. It should come up this way and over and into that fitting. Absolutely horrible, frankly. That's not ideal at all. So we shall sort that out and put the hose, replacement hose, in the right place. Yes, very irritating. Here is the spring that is unsprung because it's broken. You can just see it in there. So we're going to replace that as well while we're in here. Oh, those rusty nuts look like they're going to be a world of fun. Might need some penetrating oil for them, Tim.
Or a cutting disc.
Or a cutting disc, yeah. So we'll get that off as well. But yeah, lots going on here. So I'm very happy Tim has managed to squeeze me in, including this repaint of an MGB. Look at that, absolutely beautiful. And the frog eye, of course, which we...
Looks exactly the same.
Yeah, but has had some welding done by Lewis at Whiteland, repairs on the bonnet. So I think he did a little video on that on Whiteland Restoration's channel. But yeah, absolutely beautiful. So the job's going really well. The hose I ordered online doesn't fit. So we've had to go to Aberystwyth to get another hose, which means jumping in another member of the fleet. Tim is finding out what it's like to drive an enormous Aussie Ford. So what is it like to drive an enormous Aussie Ford?
Very comfortable, very torquey, low down, a little bit of throttle depression, and
away she goes.
away she goes.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's a bit Mercedes-esque kind of ride, I think. It's quite sort of compliant and comfortable, light steering, you know. Yeah, it's nice.
Excellent. So we shall go back and see if we can actually get this blooming hose changed. I'm going to stop ordering things on the internet. So, after our little drive to Aberystwyth to get the right hose, Tim now has the fun job of trying to undo the hose that's damaged, because it has chafed all over the place because it's been fitted so badly, which is mildly upsetting.
Yeah.
And we need to try and get this undone and hope it doesn't snap any other pipes.
Yeah, I mean, the pipes have all been replaced by copper, so they do have a habit of seizing on. It's better if you use cunifer when you're replacing your brake pipes, because they less chance of gripping to the nut, and then when you undo the nut you don't twist the pipe and then end up having to replace the hard line as well as the hose. A good trick for getting the nuts off with any pipe, rather than going straight to a spanner, because they can be really tight and you end up rounding the nut off. The best thing to do is,
done that, unsurprisingly.
yeah, the best thing to do is to get flat-faced mole grips, get them on, feel where the flat is, and then you can give it a short, sharp, there you go, and just that little crack, and then you can use a spanner to undo it. That way you've got a good grip and you're not going to slip just trying to crack them off.
Little tip. Yeah, I wish we could more clearly show you how badly this pipe has been fitted. It's difficult to actually get in because the inner arch is in the way, but
it shouldn't curl down underneath here.
No,
it should be up here and going down.
Because behind here, where you can't see, it's kind of looping really tightly like that, and these hoses are not designed to work on that sort of angle. Just insane. It's also looking like I should have wax oiled this new rear axle, because I can see surface rust developing on it already.
That'll be the one thing left of it after after 10 years. Will be the casting. That won't be the problem. Getting in there to the lower one's going to be very tricky because the shock's in the way.
The joys. Incidentally, you can kind of see how neat the rear suspension is on the Berlingo. I think it was sort of similar to ideas used on the 305 estate, but I think that used horizontal coils. So this uses torsion bars instead, with the shock absorbers at a really quite flat angle, which means you got no intrusion into the load area. So clever stuff when it works and doesn't wear out.
Hoping to do this without having to take the shock off, but it's beginning to rapidly look like we might need to take the shock absorber off.
That's not much access, is it? Well, it looks like the old shock absorbers, so in theory that hasn't been on there very long. Is it coming?
Yeah, I can just about get it.
Oh, there we go. Happy days.
Very close to the cords.
Cheapers.
Well, you are onto the cords.
Yeah, so this is the problem. The hose has actually been getting chomped. But you want to hold it in the sort of position it was in to show just how bent it was.
It was something like that.
That's not good at all. And because it's routed wrong, it was rubbing.
It's been rubbing.
Yeah, on the arm.
Rather than being like that.
Yeah.
It was doubled over like that.
Yeah, awful. So thank goodness we sorted that out, and well done to Mr. MOT man for doing his job properly and spotting that. That is awful. That could have been very serious. So that's why we have MOTs, and that's why we had our little chat the other day about why I don't want MOTs extending to 2 years. I don't think it's a very good idea.
And for classic cars, I mean, the amount of classic cars I see now coming into the workshop that haven't had an MOT for 10 years or what have you, or cars that have been pulled out and not tested in a seriously dangerous condition because they're not being tested correct. They're not being tested at all.
Incidentally, let's just have a quick comparison of the hose I bought on eBay and the one we just bought. It's the right length.
It's the right length, it's just got the wrong end on it.
Wrong end on it.
Yeah, there's a chance maybe that's for a later one with disc brakes would be my guess. But
I'll add that to my auto jumble one day pile.
Send it back.
Yeah, but at least it looks like we aren't going to have to get into remaking brake pipes, so that's
Yeah, they've all come off nicely, which is great.
beautiful. Fortunately, Bella isn't done with us yet, because this tyre was flat when we drove her in earlier, and we pumped it up to 30 psi just a couple of hours ago, and it's now flat again.
There's no obvious nails or thorns in it, so we're going to have to break out the leak detecting stuff. And
The joys. So I'm going to have to get that repaired before the MOT on Monday afternoon. It's currently Saturday afternoon. Marvellous. Love cars. Oh, phew.
by the skin of its teeth.
Oh yeah, just, gosh.
Bit of, strong washing up liquid in some water. Easy way to find a puncture.
There we go. We knew it must be fairly sizable because we pumped that up when it first came in the workshop this morning. We noticed it was low. And then when we came to work on it this afternoon, flat again.
You've driven over something in the road.
Yeah. Must have spiked it pretty bad.
Yeah. It's gone in and come back out, whatever it was.
Yeah. Spring compensator type affair time. And it's proving loads of fun because it's typically French. You can see it. You just can't get anything in to work on it.
Yeah. It was beautifully big, wide, long axle, and we'll put the compensator valve right above all the mountings and the arm on the outside, so you can actually get to it.
But the spring should attach where you can see this cable tie here, but the spring has snapped, and someone's tried to use the cable tie to attach the spring, which has failed. So the spring didn't fail just before the MOT. The spring failed some time ago and has been bodged with cable ties. And I'm very pleased to report that wasn't me. It looks like something I'd do, but no, these are not Hubnut branded cable ties.
Available in the Hubnut store.
You're getting into the spirit of it. I am so glad I'm not attempting this job rolling around on the ground. Even when you've got access, you actually have no access. And we're now trying to cut the old spring out because nuts are rusted. It's a bit of a nightmare mess, which is perhaps why the last place didn't fancy doing this job properly themselves. Aha!
Success.
Success. Once again, the patience of this man, quite extraordinary. This has been a rather epic battle, during which time I've taken Hubnuts back home in Betty, because they came up here for the day as well. And yeah, I've come back and finally we are there. Yeah. This job so much easier when the axle is on the floor, when there isn't a car in the way. So now we've got the joy of fitting this one and trying to set it correctly. I've been reading up on the Berlingo forum, so I think there is a technique for this. So we shall do our best to get that right. Not that this reflects the sort of day we're having at all, but because French stickers are back in stock. Well, there we go. We didn't do any more filming at Tim's because it was getting late enough and we just needed to get things finished and get out of there. So let's have a quick description of what we did. On the rear axle, to set the tension on the thing, what we did is we lowered the car on the ground. Lucky Tim crawled underneath and set it so the adjuster was just in tension, so that when the back of the car goes down, the spring will pull on the lever and push more brake fluid to the rear. A good way of testing this is to drive on a surface with fairly low levels of grip, do a really hard stop and make sure the back wheels haven't locked up, and certainly haven't locked up ahead of the front wheels. So yeah, everything seems to be working in the braking department now. It feels, well, reasonably good. These never feel superb. They don't stop like a hydraulic Citroen, they just haven't got the power. And then, of course, I had to go to GW Tyres in Llanarth and get this tyre repaired. So that's now holding air. Fresh coating of tyre soap, yummy. So that's sorted as well. Everything all at once. And I've just been to the MOT centre. We have gained a pass. Bella has regained her legality for another year. But absolutely terrifying. You think this push MOTs to 2 years, if that hose had not been picked up on the MOT, if it had another year to go, I can guarantee that hose would have perished. It would have just fallen apart and I would have lost brake fluid, and that would be rather alarming. I mean, it has dual circuit brakes, so it should still stop in theory anyway, but yeah, that's just frightening. Yeah, it's boggles the mind how someone could get that quite so wrong, but we won't be using that garage again. Yeah, so Bella is legal again. I am really, really happy. Get this car back on the fleet again, reduce the fuel bill. We've still got the running issues to sort out. I still need to sort out some of the wiring. I think I'm going to completely redo both underseat connectors just so we're entirely happy. But yeah, good to have this car back because it is so comfortable. It rides speed humps so well. So yeah, good to have her back in action again. We'll now at some point, probably not this week, got too much on this week, we will try and get the fuel filter changed, the housing, and see if that helps with the running issue. It is still there, but it could be the rear engine mount. I'm still not ruling that out because it's a shunty thing, and I don't know if it's the engine that's doing that or if it's that engine mount. But we've got the fuel filter housing. We definitely want to make those bubbles go away. Bubbles in a fuel system, not ideal. So we'll start with that and see where we're at. But yeah, I'm doing exactly what I said I wouldn't do, and I'm just hurling parts at it. But right, I think it's time to go home in my splendid Citroen Berlingo with the really annoying beep. Stop that. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in a future video. Farewell. You're next.